It is Sunday sit-down time. We got the St. Louis Post-Dispatch's Eli Hoff joining us on a nice summertime, early summertime that came for us here at Mizzou. How does it feel to kind of be relaxing a little bit earlier than normal this year?
Yeah, this weekend last year, I think Duke was in town for a softball super regional, and that's obviously not the case this year, but I'll take a little off season. I'm ready this time of year to be able to step back from Mizzou sports a bit.
Right, it feels like it's been a hectic year. A lot of great things happen, maybe a lot of surprising things happen. I kind of want to go through, you know, a year in review for Mizzou, kind of maybe the biggest surprises, maybe some of the biggest failures we've seen of the year. I want to start with the surprises. What do you feel like maybe was the team, the athlete, whatever it was, that maybe was the biggest surprise to you this athletic year?
Yeah, I think overall the men's basketball team getting to where they were coming off of an 0-18 season, a 19-game losing streak, right? Getting to where they got this season, I think caught a lot of people by surprise. They were picked, what, 13th, 14th, near the bottom of the SEC and wound up nowhere near that. So I think that fits biggest surprise for me overall.
Yeah, you know, biggest disappointment is always one, obviously, you don't want to talk about, but you kind of have to talk about, right? What do you feel like was maybe the biggest disappointment that you saw this entire athletic year here?
I think there's two. I think you could, in all honesty, say the men's basketball team again for the exit, the way that ended going out to Drake in the NCAA tournament. And then I think you could make an argument for Mizzou football, given the path that was there to make the 12-team college football playoff. If there could have just been some better tackling against South Carolina or I don't know, maybe something better against A&M, that whole season looks a little different. So I think it maybe be a tie between those two sports.
Yeah, well, you look at football, you know, do you feel like the expectation kind of on that thread is maybe the same as what it was after the Cotton Bowl? You kind of want to get to that level. The expectation is to try to get to the college football playoff. Where do you feel like that's at for this team right now?
I think so. I think Mizzou fans want to see their team in the postseason mix, and I'm not going to tell them they're wrong for thinking that. You look at what the schedule will be in 2025. It's almost the same as 2024 with the locations flipped in a more marquee non-conference game against Kansas on the schedule. The path is still there, but there are a lot more question marks this time around with the team.
Well, obviously, the motto of this team for years now has been something to prove. And if we're looking at a team that has something to prove next season, what do you feel like is maybe the Mizzou team that has the most to prove in the next athletic calendar?
It might be Mizzou football, and that they can sustain this kind of success. Mizzou has never won 10 games, 3 seasons in a row, right? So that would be uncharted territory if they can get there this year. So they have something to prove there. But I think my real answer is Mizzou softball, because we've gotten so used to seeing this team in the postseason, hosting regionals and super regionals here in Columbia. That didn't happen this year. Getting back to that level will be really important next year.
Just on that Mizzou softball thread, what do you feel like was maybe the difference this year? What was kind of the one thing that they couldn't get over as far as a hump, maybe to get to the postseason?
There was so much talent that Larissa Anderson had to replace. You look at a pitcher like Lauren Krings. She carried them through that regional round last year. You look at some of those top-of-the-order hitters, the Jenna Lairds, the Alex Honolds. Replacing those players is difficult, but that's the business, and that just didn't happen this year. There wasn't that kind of ace on the pitching staff. The batting order just wasn't producing at the level it needed to. So for me, it was Mizzou mostly just not having the personnel to be able to compete with the best of the best.
Well, it's kind of interesting because that's a program that really seems like it hangs on to talent for a really long time. What do you kind of make of the big transfers? Obviously, some of the faces of the program, Taylor Pennell, Madison Walker, both opting to hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, it makes a very important rebuild a lot more difficult when you lose Taylor Pennell, who's one of the best closers in college softball, and Madison Walker, who led this team in home runs. Those are two pieces who I think ideally, if you're Mizzou, you would have had locked in for next year, and now all of a sudden you're having to try to replace that too, in addition to the departures you already have at the top of the order. So the task just got a little bit taller for Coach Anderson.
Well, now maybe shifting gears here to a team that maybe surpassed expectations this season. What would you classify as the team of the year for the Tigers?
It has to be Mizzou Gymnastics. Finishing third in the country, that was just an incredible run. Folks who watched those final few meets, my goodness, the nerves, but they got it done there.
Edge of your seat stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I just was wowed by that team throughout the season, but especially in the postseason and the way they performed under the brightest lights of that sport.
And obviously, you know, they had a heck of a lot of athletes that shone in those meets. What do you think is the athlete of the year? Is it in gymnastics? Is it in another sport?
So I'll give you two, one on the men's side, one on the women's side. I think women's side, it is Helen Hugh from that gymnastics team, taking home the national title on the balance beam. I think 3 perfect 10s this year. It was a heck of a season for Helen Hugh. Yeah, she made the right call by coming back, and the team was glad to have her. Then I think on the men's side, I'd say the performance I was most impressed by was Keegan O'Toole from the wrestling team, taking home the Big 12 title at 174 pounds and a national runner-up on a torn ACL. Most like what he did, just tearing his ACL in the winter and then taking 2 months off and deciding to come back with it still damaged. I don't know how he did it. I guess through a lot of pain, but yeah, I think he's the male athlete of the year for me.
What do you like about Brian Smith bringing Keegan O'Toole onto his coaching staff for the coming season this year?
It's a no-brainer. It's fantastic. You look at what Keegan O'Toole has been to this program as a cultural piece and a voice for that team, and just a heck of a good wrestler too. I think that'll be fantastic. It seems like the time is right for him to step away from competing, and this is just a logical next step. So good to keep him around the program.
Well, a lot of highs and lows through this athletic year. Who do you think had the biggest highs? Who was coach of the year for the Tigers this season?
Yeah, I'd have to say, going back to gymnastics, Shannon Welker over there, he's brought this team to the NCAA championships for a couple of the last few years. He's got such sustained success there. This year he found a really good way of melding some athletes who he brought in as freshmen and recruited into this really good senior class with some transfers who he brought in along the way. That's what being a good coach in modern college sports takes, and I think he showed that this season.
Well, on the flip side, like I mentioned, we did see the lows of the athletic year. If you kind of had to pick one coach that maybe has the hottest seat they're sitting on here, who do you think that coach would be?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say anything other than Carrick Jackson in the baseball program, just given the struggles. Laird Veach has been up front and saying this week that Coach Jackson will be back next year, and that Mizzou needs to invest more in baseball to be able to expect more. Maybe next year is the year that happens. I don't know. But just there are only so many 27-loss seasons, so many worst years in program history that you can take. So I think he's probably facing the most pressure to turn it around.
Obviously, you want to see a bigger investment if you're Tiger baseball fans, but what do you think are maybe some of the tangible things that need to change for this baseball team to find success? Pitching feels like the biggest one, of course.
Yeah, pitching and just staying healthy, right? That would help a lot. And I still get the sense that Coach Jackson is looking for the right pieces from a culture standpoint. He said, for folks who watched the SEC tournament game last week, he said on the broadcast that he still has an immature team. This will be year 3 under him. He needs to get his players, and if that's mature players, that's what he needs to go out and get. Now, again, that's easy for us to say sitting here and hard to do with the realities of it, but I think a team that fits better together, that can play the good quality baseball he's looking for, and then stay healthy, and I think that team can take some step forward. Nobody's expecting SEC championships, but they can win a few series that way.
Well, I know we're getting into the summer months here. We're going to get to relax a little bit, but it'll be here before you know it, the next athletic calendar. On your mind, what is the biggest thing that people should be watching heading into the 2025-26 school year?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be 2 months from now. We'll be talking about SEC Media Days, so
right.
Looking at this football team and the transition away from a really talented generation. Brady Cook, no longer the quarterback. No Luther Burden as the wide receiver. There'll be Kevin Coleman wearing number 3 in the slot. That transition of generations between players is something that we're seeing Eli Drinkwitz navigate for the first time on a really big stage. He's done it before, but now he's trying to sustain a level of success with a different group of players. That's going to be the most compelling thing to watch this year.
Awesome, Eli. I appreciate you making the time. I hope you get to enjoy your summer a little bit.
I'm very excited for it. I hope everybody else does too.
Awesome. Thanks again, Eli. For the rest of you guys, we'll be right back after the break.